Perfect. All right. Okay, great. I think we should get started. Well, welcome everyone. This is such a great showing. Really excited to have you all on here. Hoping that we are not going to take up all of the 2.5 hours that I scheduled this afternoon. I don't think that we will. I just wanted to play it safe and really just block it out on the Age Strong calendar for those of us who are on here to make sure we were available. But I don't think it'll take that long, but I do want to make sure we answer everyone's questions and have time to run through the whole process this year and the forms that you all will be spending lots of time with, hopefully in the coming weeks. So I created a little agenda, and I don't know that I need to necessarily put it up, but I do want to just run through what we are going to work through today. First, I'd like to start with an introduction of all the Age Strong staff on here. I'm excited to have a new team member whose first day is today, the new program monitor. So happy to be able to introduce her to all of you. And then we have Melissa on here and then the fiscal team. So I'd like for everyone at Age Strong on this meeting to go around and introduce themselves. And then we will jump into an overview of the RFP document, the application document, the timeline when things are due, and then just a little note about the supplier portal and some reminders. And we will throw in information to fill in those bullet points, but those are the goals for the day. And then of course we'll have a question and answer time after we go through each of the documents, or perhaps we'll hold that to the end just in case we answer your questions along the way. So if you have questions as we go, just jot them down. We have Sydney who's going to take notes, and perhaps Melissa can keep an eye on the chat for any questions that come in that way. Thank you. All right, so let's start with introductions of Age Strong staff, not everyone, though we'd love to talk to all of you and hear all of you. I think that would just take up too much time. So I am Allison Freeman. I am the Area Agency on Aging Director here at the Age Strong Commission. And as many of you know, I am responsible for kind of overseeing the work that the team does at the Area Agency on Aging and work with all of our partners that receive Title III funding. So that is my role. I will send it on over to Melissa.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Allison said, my name is Melissa Carlson. I know many of you. I'm one of the deputy commissioners at Age Strong, and the AAA is one of my teams amongst the many, and very excited to be putting all of these funds out there to hear about all of your guys's and women's amazing programs that you run. I will now send it over to Sydney.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sydney. I am the new program monitor, and I'm really excited to be a part of this team. So it's nice to see everyone.
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Francis Thomas. I am the Deputy Commissioner of Finance. I'm one of the commissioners, one of the deputy commissioners, and I'm the fiscal person. And I have my team with me. And I'll turn it over to Louis, who is going to start, and then go over to Angel, and then to Maria.
Good afternoon. My name is Luis Tavares. I am part of the fiscal team with Francis, and mostly work with the nutrition program, but I also do Title 3B and D, all of them. I am the grant coordinator, and if you have any question with the billing process, after you get your award, you can check with me or Maria, my co-worker, is here too. I will pass it into Maria.
Maria, we cannot hear you. We cannot. I mean, I can hear you because we're in the same office, but no, not on here. Are you muted? Francis, would you mind introducing Maria while we figure out her?
Can you, what about now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
My name is Maria Gomes. I'm with the fiscal unit. I review and process the invoices. Once you get the grant, submit the invoice. I'm the person that deals with that. If you have any questions, you can just give me a call and I can walk you through any of the information. Pass it on to Angel.
Angel, we cannot hear you. You might be muted.
I was muted, sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Angel Robinson Jones. I'm the senior budget analyst. So for some I might have spoken to before, I work closely with Francis along with Maria and Louis. So I basically deal with the contracts. So you'll probably hear from me if there's documents that we need regarding contracts. That's it.
Thanks, Angel.
You're welcome.
All right, so I am going to jump right in. I'm going to share my screen and we can talk through the RFP. And again, I think perhaps save your questions, but if there's something that really just can't wait, go ahead and raise your hand and ask away. All right, so this is our title page. I wonder, I guess that's okay. I will just scroll through this, not spend too much time on the document. Hopefully you all have it. We are officially live. I know some of you have been onto the Supplier Portal and have looked at the events and hopefully looked at the documents. But if you haven't, that's fine. Today is the first day, so you've got time. There is a process with registering for the Supplier Portal, so we can I will touch on that at the end, but all of this information is available on the City of Boston's procurement site on the Supplier Portal. So, and I should also say that there are 3 different events that we'll talk about that are up on the portal. So for the RFP, this year, hopefully you all understood from my emails that we decided to combine standard Title III B with ARPA B, the same with D. So hopefully that'll simplify the process for everyone. And we are also putting out ARPA ombudsman funds, but not standard this year. So that's what this RFP is for. It is for FFY 2023, so a start of October 1, 2022. And we've got the dates here for the funding period for your reference. We have a table of contents, pretty self-explanatory. The legal notice, which I hope that you all saw, I did send it out over email, but if you didn't, it's in this form.
I'll just make one quick note. This is Melissa, that yes, the time frame is October 1 to September 30th, but we also do have an option of a 1-year renewal. So it could be 2 years.
Great point, Melissa. Thank you. Yes, and on that note, I don't know if I should say this now, but I will say it. The ARPA funds, because they're a one-time sum that we received, need to be spent by September 2024. So just something to keep in mind. Unlike the standard funds that we expect every year, those need to be spent by September 2024. So in the RFP, the introduction section gives some background about the Age Strong Commission and our work, the work of the AAA. We have the 3 different Title III categories that are included in this. I just told you what those were. Title IIIB, Supportive Services, Title IIIB, Ombudsman Services, and Title IIID, Preventative Health Evidence-Based Services. So we are, we've added some additional detail to this RFP than previous ones that are in the priority funding areas section 2. And that is because we, after many conversations and just work over the last year to understand kind of what the emerging needs are across the city, we identified some focus areas for the ARPA funds. We also, on our end, needed to put together a spending plan for those. So we spent a lot of time working on, how we want to prioritize these funds, and want to convey that to you so that can hopefully steer your proposals this year. So we've included, in addition to kind of a more open-ended Title 3B introduction, we've added some more specific focus areas. Your proposals don't need to focus on these, but what we're really hoping to see is new services, new programs that do address these needs. And I will just read through them, but certainly take some more time to read through them yourselves. The focus areas are behavioral health, outreach to underserved older adult communities, economic security, housing stabilization, social isolation, and digital equity. And Melissa, please chime in to rephrase or clarify things that I say. The 3D, health promotion, evidence-based services, again, kind of looking for the services and the programs that best meet the population that you serve. But we also have a focus on behavioral health. Again, that came through our work to identify focus areas for the ARPA funding, and knowing that there are evidence-based programs that address behavioral health, we wanted to include it in here to let you know that that's a focus area.
And I'm actually going to jump in right now. Thank you, Allison. So in the B and the D categories, many of our partner organizations already provide some really amazing programs. With these ARPA funds, we have the opportunity for all of you to think more broadly in these categories that Allison just mentioned. And so there might be a second type of program that you might want to explore or to apply for. And we are open to that, be it in say it's maybe like 2 different programs that kind of fall under the Title 3B, the support services. One could be, and I'm just pulling things out of the air, one could be, say, like a home repair program, and then the other could be something to support people to be more socially active, to maybe outreach to a different population that you're not currently serving, but you've always wanted to serve. And so I just wanted to give those examples for you right now to get your wheels turning. And then back to you, Allison.
Thanks, Melissa. Great addition. I also should mention that we are also, these funds are a really great opportunity for us and our partners to think about expanding existing programs where there might be a need for more work. So just to think about expanding, and also, as Melissa said, new programs and serving consumers in a new way that perhaps your organization hasn't. And then the last one is Ombudsman Services, and Ombudsman Services are the organization there that has this designation, works very closely with the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. And again, this is just ARPA funds this year. Okay, so Section 3 talks a bit about service monitoring and collaboration. As the area agency on aging, I've been talking a lot today, so I feel like my words are not as sharp. We are responsible for supporting the partners that receive these funds, and also are responsible for making sure that scope of service agreements are kept and everyone is holding up their part of the agreement. So we have regular reporting. We do two site visits during the funding period, and then a year-end site visit. Those have been done most recently virtually because of the pandemic. There is also a reporting process, either quarterly or monthly, depending on the needs of the agency and our needs, and how frequently we need to look at reports. We, of course, are always available to offer technical assistance on the program side and on the fiscal side. We are more than happy and want to set up calls and Zoom calls or come out to you and make sure that reporting is simple and that the process of receiving these funds is as simple as it can be. We know that there is a lot that goes into receiving federal funds, reporting, and we really want to make that not a difficult process. So whenever you have questions, we want to help. And when you bring on new staff who are new to the grant, we want to help get them up to speed. I'm not going to go through all of these, but they're a list of kind of the areas that we look at when we come and do site visits and are in communication with all of you. We have a section on note keeping, record keeping. This just talks about documentation that we expect to have access to should we need it. We also have in here a paragraph about staff changes. So something that's really important is that any staff that are on the grant in your organizations, that we have the correct documentation for them, and that we are given notice if a staff member on the grant leaves the organization and is no longer working on the grant. We just ask that you please keep us in the loop of that as soon as you know. And then we will always follow up with more information like dates and resumes and things like that, but we are responsible for keeping certain information on our end, so we will ask for that from you. So the reporting I already mentioned, again, quarterly or sometimes monthly, depending on the organization and what our needs are. And there are more details in here about what we look for in reporting, but reports are due the 10th of every month following the month you're reporting on. So I expect June 10th to have the reports from the month of May in our inbox, our email inbox. And if it's quarterly, then I don't expect that, but you understand, I hope, the 10th of the month requirement. We've listed here unregistered and registered services. There are sort of different pieces of information that we need depending on if you are delivering a registered or unregistered service. That is something that if you need help understanding what a registered or unregistered service is, we can help you with that. In addition to reporting numbers like units of service and number of consumers served, we also request narrative reports, which is really an opportunity to kind of fill in the numbers with what it is that you've been working on through your Title III work. So an opportunity to tell us about different events you've had, anecdotal stories, one-on-one conversations with older adults that you've served, really highlight your work in the narrative report. monthly activity. No, okay. Monthly activity calendars. We ask that any activity calendars at your center for older adults with services related to Title III get submitted to us the month before. This helps us to schedule site visits. We might want to drop in when you have a class going on. We really love to see the kind of the work that you're doing. So it's great to be able to schedule site visits when you've got activities.
All righty, I'm going to jump in now. I think before we switch over to fiscal, there were a couple questions that came through the chat. So one of the question was, it mentions to focus on up to 3 services and asking if that was within a focus area. So say behavioral health, or is it across several services? And so we're wanting, say, like 3 services per program. Again, back to my example of home repair, it'd be, say, 3 programs in that, 3 services in that program. And then if you're proposing another different program, it would be 3 services within that program. And then there was another question, if a new program is still considered something that was created post-pandemic in response to the pandemic. And yes, we would still love to hear about that program and the great work that your organization is doing. And then there was a third question about funding levels, and Francis will be covering that when he gets to it in our fiscal section. That's all for now, Allison.
Thanks, Melissa. So I do want to mention OAPS. It's a new reporting system so ACL, our federal level kind of parent agency, has changed our reporting system. So we are no longer using NAPIS. We are now using the Older Americans Act performance system. And that doesn't relate too much to all of you, but you will hear us reference it at the end of a federal fiscal year when we're doing all of our data collection and reporting up to the state. So more to come on that, but just wanted to note that. I will say that for the time being, and this will, folks who have received this funding in the past will know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's completely fine. But we are going to continue to use NAPIS categories, NAPIS service categories. So when you're going through and identifying the services that you'd like to include in your proposal, just know that I've sort of listed I've given the title to the document of like NAPIS or OAPS / NAPIS services. So they're the same as NAPIS. I'm just trying to, we haven't switched over yet though. So just continue to use those. The electronic record keeping, WellSky, I don't know that I need to talk too much about that, but for registered services, there is a requirement to complete electronic record keeping in the WellSky aging and disability case management software. If you are delivering a registered service, that is something that will be addressed down the road. But we had to include that in here, so that's in here. All right, and I'm going to stop sharing and give it over to Francis for the fiscal requirements.
Thank you very, very much, Allison and Melissa. Let me see if I can do my best here to share. Let me see, where are we here? Too many pieces. Nope. I thought I just had this open.
While you're looking, I should have noted, and I forgot to look at my own little notes. For the proposal, we'll get to the application page next, or the application form next, with all the questions that you'll answer, but we are what we're looking for is a single technical proposal from each applicant. So if you are, and this note is included in the application, but if you are going to, you have your Title III, that your program that you have received Title III funding in the past, you're going to request funding for another program that you are going to implement and kind of tap into these ARPA funds. You are going to complete a single technical proposal and just specify in each program specific question which of the 2 programs you're talking about, or the 3 programs, however many you're applying for. And then on the fiscal side, it's going to be a little bit different, but I want to make that note. And if you have questions about that, please ask. There was one other thing that I just thought of before Francis takes over, and I don't remember what it was. So I will stop talking.
And I think I'm having technical difficulty with sharing. So
We can see your screen.
you can, but that is the wrong one. And what are you saying?
We are seeing the RFP document.
You seen the RFP up? You seen the RFP?
Yep.
Or the application?
RFP.
Okay. Okay. All right. Good afternoon again, everyone. The funding requirements for this BDAS conference today is about $3 million. B has 2.6, D has about 200 or so thousand, and then OMB, Ombudsman, has another 200,000. So in total, we're talking about $3 million today. And that's broken up between the American Rescue Act plan and your regular Title III. So that's what you have today. And that hopefully that answers the question on the funding requirements that is out for bid today. To receive that money, every partner agency must complete and execute a contract. And that contract is part of this RFP that you have here. You can see the link. It will lead you through all of it. Each partner agency must complete a contract, okay? And you also must be able to do your records. Your records have to be done, and it has to be accurate. This grant, this federal grant, is a cost reimbursement grant, which means you spend the money and we reimburse you. So you need accurate records to be able to submit to us what you are requesting for us to reimburse you with. There will be a budget or budgets depending on what you apply for. And those budgets are ceilings. They are maximums. You cannot go over them. We do not entertain deficits. So remember that your budget is your budget and you must adhere to those budgets. The regulations that are associated with this grant change from federal to state to local. We must abide by those regulations. For the federal one, you can see it right here boldly, is the uniform admin requirements, cost principles, and we usually refer to it as uniform guidance. You must adhere to those regulations, those federal regulations. The state also has their own regulation, and so does the city. And from time to time, you will get new pieces as we see fit or as the state sees fit, okay? In terms of your budgets.
Francis, I'm going to jump in real fast. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
There was a question. Could you please repeat the general funding amounts per category?
Okay. The total funding is today that's going to go out is $3 million US. 2.6 of that is B, Title 3B, which some of it is American Rescue Act plan, some of it is standard Title 3. And then you have 4D, about 217,000 of that. That also is broken up between standard and American Rescue Act plan. And then the last component, which is the Ombudsman, is also, that one is only American Rescue Act plan. That's also about 200,000 or so. So those are the three categories of funding that are going to go out today, all adding up to $3 million.
And then one more question for us. Are there any funding ranges for these awards?
Well, there is no minimum. And if we really love your proposal, we'll go for it. So that's why it is out. So put out your best and let's see how you can dazzle us and be able to continue to service our older adults in the city of Boston. Okay. Did I answer that question clearly?
Thank you. And that's
Okay.
all the questions for now. I'll let you continue on.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. In terms of budget revisions, you can have budget revisions within categories. And those budget revisions have to be submitted to us. It has to be in writing, and it's got to be 30 days before your fiscal period ends. And that usually we request of you to tell us what you are trying to revise and if there are any adverse impacts on the scope of services that you may have signed up, that you had signed up at the beginning of the program. So those are requirements that must be in writing, and it has to be approved before the fiscal year ends. Do not forget that component. Okay. Payment procedures. Your invoices must be submitted monthly. They must be submitted monthly. You had Alison earlier on refer to the 10th of the month. This is Title 3B, D, and Ombudsman. We want your invoices by the 10th of the following month. Okay, and we will pay them. Now we have full staff. We've been paying them as soon as they're coming in. We pay them as faster than we have before. And we highly, highly, highly encourage you, recommend that you sign to an electronic payment system. So the US mail system, as you will all know, has had its issues even during the pandemic. But if it's an ACH, your payment goes into your account on the Thursday night, and by Friday morning, the payment is in your account. So we highly encourage you to sign up for ACH. Your late payments are not recommended. Late submissions are not recommended. If you have them, if you have several of them, you will hear from us. And your last bill at the end of the fiscal period must be received 70 days before, 70 days after the period ends. Otherwise, we will not be obligated to pay it. And because we have to submit our paperwork to EOEA, and then EOEA has to reimburse us, and we have to close our books. So remember to do that, please. Now, I will go over to the other end, which is the best part for me, our fiscal assessments. We do monitoring, and we do this in multiple had We'll review your financials, and if we see corrective actions are needed, we'll come after you. You hear from us, and you heard from Mr. Luis Tavares, and you heard from Maria. They are very, very renowned for sending emails. And from time to time, I usually follow up with phone calls of my own. But we will do reviews of your financials. And if there are corrective action, we'll do them. At the beginning of the period, we'll do risk assessments. And sometimes we'll do it via questionnaire. This determines whether during the year, we'll need to come to you, or whether we need to give you extra training or technical assistance. On-site reviews we have not done in a while, but we're hoping to start doing them soon after the pandemic ends. And I hear that we have a neighbor that's close by. They will be our test case. Expenditure thresholds, okay? If you have an expenditure threshold of 500,000 US dollars, you are required to do an A133, which is a federal audit. Do not forget to do that. All right. Now, we'll go on to budget instructions. Budget instructions you're going to get in two forms. There are 4 parts to this. You're going to get some in Excel. You're going to get one in a narrative, which is in Word form. Now,
Good morning. Come on in.
who's saying good morning? Oh,
Good morning.
okay. So your budget instructions comes in 2 forms.
Know what happened to my key? You don't find.
Can you mute that person? I think it's Sarah. I think somebody, Sarah Sanon.
I am trying to. And I can't for some reason.
Is it because of me?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. I think the noise has gone away. The instructions are in 4 parts. There's a part that has budgets. There's a part that has estimated income. There's a part that has your narratives, which is in Word document, and you have the allocation, which is also going to be in Excel. Those will come in Appendix C, and you see them later. Now, your budget, your program budget. You had Melissa earlier on refer that give us different programs. We want you to tell us your different programs. This is very, very important. And let me say it, I'm going to say it more than once. We want to be able to evaluate every program as a standalone. When I say program under B, for example, if you have a program wherein you're serving, say, weight loss, okay? Or you have another program that you're doing something all under B. And these are all, we want to be able to evaluate those programs individually. So it is incumbent upon you to give us a budget that speaks individually to that specific program, so that when we look at it, we'll be drooling at it, we will say, this looks good. This is something that we need to sponsor. This is something we need to fund. So look at your pieces, and if they are standalones, please submit budgets for them as standalones, which means that you're going to have to do these 4 parts for each of those programs that you want us to look at and evaluate you on. Okay. In terms of the budget itself, you have to itemize them. You look at them, when you see them, you realize that there's a salary there, there's a component for personnel, there's a component for non-personnel. Do not mix them up. And under non-personnel, you're going to have rent category, you have different categories under those. Do not try to mix them up. They're standalone, so there's a reason why we do it that way. Okay. Estimated income. You must account for all estimated income, all of them. You have to account for them. And the columns are there that allows you to account for all of your estimated income. In kind, we want letters of support for your in kind. We do. The value of them, which is usually the market value, and then the source of the in kind. We want that. Okay. For Title 3B, D, and Ombudsman, your required matching is 15% of the total project cost. 15%. You can make it 20, you can make it 50, you can make it 100, but it has to be at a minimum 15%. Budget justifications. This is where you're going to have the dazzle loss with your insights. This is where program must talk to fiscal. Program must talk to fiscal, because all those great things you're talking about in programs that you want to do to again dazzle us, they all come at a price tag. So when we review your budgets, if I see that you're trying to do outreach, but then there is no money associated for outreach, it's a red flag. So this is where program must talk to fiscal to make sure that all the things you're talking about in your programs, there is a budget associated with it. There's a number associated with it. Your building space, okay? Remember that. Equipment. And the most interesting part always, which is always a problem, is your indirect cost. There are several components to your indirect cost for this grant. There are 4 ways to do it, and it's listed here. But I'll tell you, there's a federal negotiated indirect rate. There is a state version of it. There's a flat rate of 10%, and then there's a non-federal charge, which just deals with your direct cost. So those 4 pieces, remember to pick one and deal with it accordingly. Okay. Your audits. If you have expenditures of more than $500,000, you must do an A133 federal audit, and we want to see a copy of it. Do not forget. There's a category for others. The things that are not spelled out, you're free to throw them in here and itemize. Subcontractors. Some of you guys are going to have them. We want to know about them. Who are they? What do they do for you? What are they going to be doing for us indirectly? And we want to see copies of the contract, the MOUs that you do. We want to see them. Fundraising. What is your skin in the game? Okay. What are you raising monies from someplace else? If you are, we want to see that. Okay. And the last part of this is your in-kind values. We talked about it a little bit earlier on. Non-cash transactions, you have to provide us that come out. We want the fair market value of that. It is very, very important. Now, the last part of this budget component is the allocation of cost. This comes to you in Excel. Usually feeds off of the other paperwork that you've done previously. Here is what my good friend tells me it is the most important component for her. You don't mess with the columns here. It's all frozen in. Allison likes this paperwork because that's what she uses at the end of the year or during the quarters to report, to do her reporting. Okay. All of these pieces must add up to 100%. So whatever monies you're getting, you have to allocate it amongst the different categories. Okay. That is very, very critical. Over to you, my good friend. Allison, I'm done.
Thanks, Francis. All right. So at this point, I'm going to share my screen for the grant application. We'll walk through that. We are starting, oh, hold on. Just remembered in a meeting, the suggestion to start with the Ombudsman application. So I'm going to pull that up. And I will say that it looks very similar to the B and D. So I'll make sure that I just highlight the differences when we talk about B and D. But let's talk about the application for Ombudsman.
While Allison works on pulling up the Ombudsman application, there's a question that came in, Francis. If people are applying for more than one program, but all under the Title 3B funding category, do they need to submit one budget or two?
Myself, okay. If they are applying for Title 3B.
Yes, and two programs under Title 3B. Say one is home repair, one is focused on social isolation.
It will be in their best interest under those two programs because we're going to have to evaluate those two programs as a standalone. It will be in your best interest and for convenience sake for our team to do two separate budgets.
I would even say that you need to do that. I think that's the language we put into the application, which we'll show you, is that you must submit separate budgets for separate programs.
Thank you for being
Thank-
more forceful.
Thank you. And then I also see we have a question from Marjorie. If you want to unmute yourself.
Fine. Where is the grant application for Title III Ombudsman? It is not, I couldn't find it on the site when I downloaded all of the documents.
The application for Ombudsman is on a different event. So that event is 10526.
Marjorie, I just accidentally muted you when I meant to unmute myself. Sorry about that.
So it's not in with all the other ombudsman forms.
Ombudsman is under a different, the application is under a different event. If you look at the legal notice, there were 2 events there, B and D, and then you have one for 10526, which is for Ombudsman. So you have to look there.
Yeah, no, I'm in that event right now. The number that you listed, Francis, the application is not listed among the event package. The application itself is not there. All of the other documents are there, but I am not seeing the application. And Marjorie also checked, so we both checked each other before asking and being totally embarrassed that we didn't see it, or maybe we didn't see it and we'll both be embarrassed.
I will double check.
Okay.
And if it's not there, I'll upload it. But I remember looking for it specifically, and I will upload it if it's not there in the next 20 minutes.
Thanks, Francis.
Yep.
Thank you.
While we're paused, are there any other questions from the audience? I can't see everyone's faces, so if you have one, you need to unmute yourself or do the fun little hand raise. Alrighty, seeing none, we will turn it back over to Allison to go over the Ombudsman application.
Thank you. And yes, I'm looking at that event right now and I do not see that document. So thank you for flagging that for us. All right, so we'll make sure that that gets put up there. Thank you. All right, so the grant application, this is just the first page. We have each section detailed in the outline here, so you can quickly jump to a section if you're working on it. My contact information is listed here, my email address and my phone number. I would say probably email is the preferred method, but please, if a phone call makes more sense for you, then don't hesitate to call. I'll also touch on questions that you might have during the open RFP period at the end, but please ask away. So the first page here is the cover page. We also have a separate form, a separate document on the events that is just the cover page. So you can easily print that out, or just download it and fill it out as its own kind of document. Please make sure you complete this entire page. And neighborhoods to be served. I just want to make a note on that. I think sometimes because services aren't necessarily open to only one neighborhood, if my organization is in Dorchester, it's not only open to Dorchester residents, but anyone from the city can come to it. I want to make sure that I'm listing that I'm noting that I'm primarily serving Dorchester residents. So you might think like, oh, citywide, I'm serving all of the neighborhoods. But I think that is helpful on our end to see that, are you actually going into all the neighborhoods and delivering services in all of them? Or are people coming to you and are they receiving services in Dorchester? So just a note on that. Signatures, correct me if I'm wrong, Francis, but we will take electronic signatures. So feel free to do that. So these are the questions that you will be answering, and not a lot of difference from our last RFP, but a couple of things to note. And again, this is very much going to look like the application for B and D. So I would say pay attention, everyone can pay attention to this, and I will note the differences. So organization description, pretty self-explanatory. We've listed here everything that we expect to see in this. We've also listed length of section maximum. Hopefully that will be sufficient. We anticipate, reading lots of these, so we just want to make sure that I just want to reinforce that we appreciate your concise writing very much, but things to include are all listed there. Needs and summary of the program, narrative format. We are looking for up-to-date statistical information specific to the community and individuals that you're serving, how you're, why there's a need for the program that you are proposing. We also have some bullet points here that we would ask you to include in this section. Program goals and objectives. This section is really going to be linked to the services that you are offering. So I've provided an example, and again, this is one area where B and D is going to look different. There's a different example in there, but your goal is kind of what you're aiming to do with this service or this program. Your objective is usually always going to include kind of a number, and then an action plan. We want to know how you're going to do this. How are you going to achieve this objective? And then evaluation. We want to know how you're evaluating this objective to see if you are achieving your goal. I want to make a note on here, and this is not really relevant to, I'm realizing as I'm looking at this, to Ombudsman, but since it's here, I will note it for everyone. Previously, outreach was a service category, and it was something that you included in your in the table, in your scope of service agreement. You would say, we will do X number of outreach units of service. Well, we don't count consumers for outreach, or we haven't. So we would ask that you always include an outreach service. With OAPS, which is the new NAPIS, outreach is going away as a service. So please do not include that as a service that you're delivering. The expectation is that outreach will be worked into all of your services. So we are going to, later on in the application, we'll prompt you to share about your outreach efforts. So we're still looking for the outreach work to be done, but it's not a service. But understanding that, you're still sharing materials, you're talking about your services that are available when you're speaking with older adults or family members. So just kind of less of an emphasis on numbers for outreach moving forward. So just a note there. Program staffing. The length of this section will certainly be dependent on your organization and how many programs you're applying on behalf of. But we have listed the information that we need for all of the staff on your grant. So these are the people who are going to be paid out of the Title III funds. And these are the people who are listed on your personnel page on your fiscal forms. So these are the pieces of information we need. Outreach initiatives in coordination and collaboration with other organizations. So again, outreach is not a service that you're reporting on and that you're required to include as a service and put funds to, but we still want to know how you're reaching the community, how you are getting the word out about your services, who you're collaborating with, how you're collaborating with them, and all of that really important work that's done to engage consumers. Client input and satisfaction, really important in the work that we do, understanding from the people that we're serving, how they like the services. If they have different needs, then, you know, if the services that are being delivered aren't exactly addressing their needs, if they want changes, if they want more of something, this is really important for our work. We want to know from consumers how to best serve them. So we want to see how you're engaging them, how you're getting their feedback. Are you meeting with them regularly? Is there a survey that you're sending out? Are you doing like periodic check-ins? When you close out a case, are you doing kind of like an exit interview where you're getting feedback about their experience? Any tools that you're using, any processes, we definitely want to see that in here. And please attach surveys that you might have for this type of work. Program evaluation. Another really important part of this work is understanding how, you know, what is the impact of these funds and what is the impact of the work that we're doing. So, you know, and I know that some organizations have very specific program evaluation that they have developed, and others might not. Whatever you're doing to evaluate the impact of your programs and the quality of your services, we want to see that here. And again, any documents that you have, please attach them because we'd love to see them. Accessibility, equity, and inclusion. This section, one paragraph. If you need to go on into two, that's fine. I realize that's a little short. We want to know about the physical space where you are serving consumers. So how are older adults getting into your space? Is it accessible to people with different mobility challenges? Can individuals who have a hearing impairment access your services? How are you making them accessible to someone with low vision? How are you ensuring that everyone feels welcome? Do you have language capacity? Are you serving, how are you addressing cultural difference? How are you outreaching to different communities that make up your broader community to make sure that everyone feels included, everyone can access services and can get what they need from your program? And I'm going to stop for Francis to take over. Francis, do you want me to keep sharing or do you want to share?
I would say keep sharing.
Okay. You tell me when to scroll.
Because this piece, you have to mute yourself. Okay. This piece is the same as what we just went through in the RFP. So I am not going to emphasize anything here. The fiscal narrative has 4 components: the building space, the equipment, the indirect. All of these things need to get filled up. We need you to address each and every one of them and address them adequately. So all of them needs to get filled up. Keep scrolling, Allison, to this component here. Is just basically says this is very simple. I'll turn it back over to you because I don't need to go over this one. This is your area. But in terms of the component, all of the things that we addressed earlier all apply to the application. Just do a little more of a description and let us know what is your thought process behind your spacing and so on and so forth. All right. 2 minutes.
Thanks, Francis.
Yeah.
So in this section, we've included the requirements for your technical proposal and your requirements for the price proposal. I stepped out to the bathroom. Forgive me if this was already said, but I think it is worth repeating. You must submit your technical proposal separately from your pricing proposal. So we on the program side, we get your technical proposal. We get to look at that. We get to review it and score it. we are not allowed to see your fiscal stuff. So do not submit that in a single attachment. Please make sure that's separated out. And if you are not able, for whatever reason, to submit on the portal, and you have to, hand deliver your documents to City Hall, we don't recommend that. But if you need to do that, you certainly can. Please make sure that they are, again, separated. We cannot have those two pieces together. So this is just a checklist. This is, at the end to make sure that you've got everything included in each of your sections.
Alison, let me emphasize something there. If you combine your fiscal and your program and your technical write-up, it is a reason for disqualification. Okay, the two cannot be combined because we have to first evaluate your technical component independent of the pricing. So please do not combine them. It will be a legal reason to disqualify you, to throw your write-up out the window. Over to you, Alison.
Thanks, Francis. Great emphasis. I do want to note some different attachments on Ombudsman, the Ombudsman application and the BND. This will not be on the BND application, but there are two attachments: the proposed host agency information form and the conflict of interest form. Those are both state forms, and they should be on the event. I think that they are. So just a note there. And then again, fiscal forms are the same. And this is what we were just talking about here at the end, that they should not be included in the same document. They cannot be, in order for us to evaluate the proposal.
And this is Melissa again. I'm just going to add in on the budget pieces. Please upload them in Excel. You do not need to switch them over to PDFs. It'll make our review process go much more smoothly if you share the files in Excel. And I'm also going to take this opportunity to review two questions that we had that I totally missed early on. One was asking if reporting is monthly or quarterly. And I would say for programmatic, we will work with you on monthly or quarterly. We will work with you to decide which option is the best depending on your staffing, be it new people learning the program, learning the reporting, or if it's quarterly, if that works better with processes. Similarly, for fiscal, you will need to work with our fiscal team to decide if you are going to submit your billing monthly or quarterly. You need to have that conversation with our fiscal team. And then the final question that we had was, what is the name of the application for the document for the B&D? It is called Grant Application 3B and 3D is the form that you should be seeing. And back to you, Allison.
Thank you, Melissa. All right, I'm quickly going to scroll through the B&D application. Again, most of the sections look the same. I think I already highlighted what's different, so it'll look very similar, but I do want to just scroll through it so you can see it. This is the same cover page. Forgive me for scrolling quickly. I will say what we were explaining earlier about this single proposal and the separate budgets we did. Francis and I spent some time Friday evening trying to really clearly state this here. I'm not sure if we achieved it, but we did our very best. We think so. You can tell us later. But basically, what we're looking for agencies applying for multiple programs that fall into one Title III category, for example, Title IIIB. And then we also wanted to note, in an effort to not confuse larger organizations that have kind of individually or independently functioning sites across the city that they might be applying on behalf of, that we are looking for individual proposals for each of those sites. So didn't want to confuse matters, thought we should include that there. So that's different about this application form. We also have a different example here that's applicable to B&D versus ombudsman. So that's just an example. The same deal with the goal, objective, action, and evaluation. And again, we should be seeing multiple goals, or you might have, you know, a couple of goals with multiple objectives and action items and evaluations, but certainly we should be seeing multiple for each program, really showing us the, you know, the work of the services that you select. Staffing, same expectations. Outreach, same. Client input, program evaluation, accessibility, fiscal, same. And then again, the attachments are a bit different. Well, the 2 ombudsman attachments are not included, of course. So those were just kind of additional pieces for the ombudsman proposal, but not for, there aren't special ones for B and D.
Okay, we have one more question that came in, and I think Francis is answering it right now as well, asking if the technical and pricing proposals are both uploaded to the portal, or if one is uploaded to the portal and the other emailed to Allison. And Francis, do you want to answer this one?
There are separate places where you upload the technical and the fiscal. They're separate places completely. So if you're confused, there will be a contact information. You guys, I think it's Eric DeMarco, I think. He will be given, that information will be given to you here. If you are, and don't wait until last minute to call him and try to figure out exactly where the upload is, but there's a separate area to upload your technical and there's a separate area to upload your pricing.
And I will just add clarification. There is a team that works on the supplier portal. And so if you have questions at any point in time, give that general phone number a call and they will get back to you. We have found that they have been the nicest people to work with, and it's been really great to have them on as part of our team through this process.
Yes, and that is a great segue to another part of our agenda, which is the supplier portal. If you do a City of Boston procurement Google search, it will take you, this will be the first hit and you can click on it. If you scroll down, well, you'll see the contact information. You can call that number. If you scroll down, there are some documents that will help you to go through the supplier portal. So definitely use these as a resource. How to use the supplier portal. I will say that I am not the person to ask about the supplier portal. I have never uploaded a bid. I don't do that, so I can't help you. I will just direct you over to our procurement team. But again, these documents can be very helpful, and I encourage you to take some time with them. Anything that you can do now to get set up, please do that. It is always, I think every year that I have been a part of this process, I have gotten at least one frantic phone call before the deadline asking me for help with, or asking for help with submitting something. I can't, you know, it's not accepting my documents, or it won't, I can't submit. And it is just, it pains me to not be able to offer you technical assistance and to just be like, I don't know. So please look at this now and go through everything that you need to go through to get yourself set and ready to submit. Do not wait until the last day. There is certainly going to, we can always expect technical difficulties with every electronic process like this, and with our pretty strict limitations and kind of time cutoff of 5 p.m. At Tuesday, July 12th, we want to make sure that all of your proposals are in if you do choose to apply for these funds, and that it is not a stressful process for you, and that you have plenty of time before the deadline where you can just kind of be done with this process and wait to hear from us. So please take a look at this now and do not wait, certainly until the day that it's due, if you can help it. Let me just look at my notes. I want to go through the timeline with everyone, and then let's, I think, open it up to any other questions. But the timeline is in the RFP document, so you have it, but I would like to just verbalize it, and maybe Melissa can jot it in the chat for everybody too, or I can actually copy and paste. Actually, no, I don't know that I can do that. That might be messy. So the RFP is live. You can go into the Supplier Portal. We have 3 different events. The RFP will tell you what those are called and their numbers. One for B, one for D, and one for Ombudsman. You can go in there, you can download your event package. All of the details, all of the forms are in there. So please, jump on there now. Well, not now, wait till the meeting's over, but jump on there this week and take a look, download what you need. Proposals are due by July 12th, which is a Tuesday, by 5 p.m. Tuesday, July 12th by 5 p.m. Our goal is we will start, Francis's team will download everyone's proposals and all their documents, and we will start reviewing hopefully July 13th. And that takes us a little bit of time. It takes us a couple of weeks to go through all of them, but we will do that, and we are excited to do that. We are hoping to get decisions made and award letters issued by August 8th. I think that's a Monday. And then, yes, that's a Monday. Melissa, do you have something to say? Oh, okay. After we issue award letters, with your award letters, actually, we will include 2 templates. One is a scope of service agreement, and one is it'll be the fiscal forms actually that you submit in your proposal. If there are changes that need to be made to your budget or any of the fiscal forms, we'll ask that those get revised and resubmitted to us, along with a scope of service agreement. Again, that information can be, we don't need to cross that bridge right now, but those will be due back to us August 29th, 2022, assuming that we are on schedule for our issuing of award letters. We'll make sure we give you enough time to complete those. And then we will review those documents and finalize those by September 12th, get them signed and back to you. Francis's team will be working on contracts all this during this time. His team will be in communication with awardees to make sure that all the forms for contracts are being filled out so that we are ready to go October 1st when the funding period starts. So those are the dates. A fun-filled summer for all of us.
Okay, we've had a couple questions that came in. One was asking if an older adult is considered 55 plus. The Older Americans Act actually clarifies that an older adult is 60 plus. And then we had another question that just came in. When you submit the application, is each section submitted as a separate document, or is the whole application submitted as one document? And I think I'll let Allison handle this one.
Yes, a single document, please. So you can you can just download that application form and just plug in your responses. That we want all of that as a single document, the technical proposal as a single document, please.
And at the bottom of the application, it clarifies which sections are technical, apply to the technical proposal, and then it clarifies which sections will be part of your pricing proposal. So your pricing proposal will have some Excel spreadsheets, a few other documents, and a Word document covering a couple of the questions. And now I see we also have a question from Marjorie.
So for Ombudsman, this is not a regular application year. It's strictly ARPA. So is what I include in this application strictly what I'm going to use ARPA funds for? Or does it, because it doesn't follow quite the same logic as the others, or does it?
I'll go out on the limb and see if my team agrees with me. That for the programmatic, you can apply what you're going to use the ARPA funds for. When you get to the budget piece, you might need to show some of your Title III funds and your ARPA funds combined. And if you need to talk about some of your Title III work to make the ARPA picture more whole, you can do that as well. I hope that answers the question.
So I would assume then that our budget is the total 200K then, Francis?
For the ARPA, your budget is for, to be exact, it's about 175,000. That's the ARPA amount.
Say that again, Francis, please.
To be exact, the budget for this ARPA ombudsman is 175,118, to be exact.
Okay, so that's the ARPA alone.
Yes.
And I assume that then the other is our original.
The other original, you already have that,
Yeah.
and it remains as is. If I'm to tell you that, it usually is.
Oh, I can.
Yeah,
It's,
I mean, you can
the
find
same.
it. Yeah.
I can figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Yeah.
That is all the questions we've had come through the chat. Allison and Francis, are we? Oh, go ahead, Francis.
The Ombudsman application has been uploaded, and it's in a Word document, and so the other application also are in Word document. They've been uploaded. All of them you can find in Word, because you're going to need to dazzle us with your programmatic language. So we've been able to upload them in Word versus PDF. Thanks for bringing it to our note again. Sorry for the inconvenience.
While others are thinking of more questions, I do want to mention our process for questions and answers. So at this point, since the RFP is live, we are not able to answer your specific program questions. So if you were to call and say, like, you know, we really, gosh, I'm going to not be able to find like an example to say, but do you think we should deliver this service should we try to include this into our program this year? We cannot give you that type of guidance. So you're on your own in that regard. But you know, if you think if it's worthy of these funds and would serve your community, then be confident and go ahead and put it in there. But we do want to answer all your questions that are not program specific. So send them our way. We will answer them as quickly as possible. Sometimes it takes us a little bit longer because we don't know the answer immediately and need to kind of convene as a team and figure out how best to respond. We also will publicize everyone's question and the answer that we give. So if you email me or call me and ask a question, I will respond to you individually with an answer, and then I will also include it in a document that will be published on the Age Strong webpage. Once that document is up and the webpage is, once it's up on our page, I'll send it out to all of you so that you have access to it. And I would just say, I don't know how frequently that'll be updated, probably weekly as questions come in. If they seem to be coming in, you know, a lot more in the beginning, we'll try to update it more frequently. But I would say to all of you, periodically check that document to see if anyone has asked questions that might be helpful to you and your process of completing the proposal. And ask questions, you know, the sooner the better, but as you are going through, you know, certainly ask away. And I would say that we probably, I mean, you can ask right up till the deadline, but I'm not sure how helpful it will be to ask a question the day it's due, just because I'm not sure what that day will look like and how quickly we'll be able to respond. But certainly, you know, any questions that come up, please ask, and ask them as soon as you think of them so we can get back to you quickly.
And there's one more question that came in through the chat. It was asking if the funding requires a match. And yes, all of it requires match funding. Fiscal team, help remind me what the percentage of match is.
The percentage of match is 15%. I mentioned it earlier on. And you can give 20, you can give 50, you can give 100, but at the minimum, we want 15%. That is the federal requirement.
I think there was also a question that I saw, and it may have already been answered, but I saw it in the chat. Someone asking if there were, and I may have misread this, like ranges, like award ranges. Did someone asked that? Was that something?
And I think I answered that. Yes.
And
Oh,
we
Francis
did,
answered.
and Francis answered it saying, please dazzle us with what you think needs, your program needs for funding. And now I see we have a question from Meg.
I seem to be having some internet problems, so I apologize if I freeze up. I have some questions about the NAPIS categories. So for B and D specifically, focusing on up to 3 categories. So I'm not quite sure how to ask this question, so forgive me if I bungle it a little bit. The scope of work within, particularly with Title III-D, with the evidence-based programming, our scope of work is much, because we run so many different programs, when we have to pull it into just 3 specific categories, it really limits the number of consumers. So I guess that's a program specific question, but how would you want us to handle a situation like that? Is it just pick 3, like our 3 biggest, and put forward, pick 3? Is there a way to do, I know some of the categories are like wellness, health and wellness, something, but they're not necessarily evidence-based. Like that category is not necessarily insinuating that it's evidence-based. So I'm just curious, I don't know if that makes sense. If you need me to clarify, let me know, but just kind of your take on that.
Great question, Meg. Title III-D, as you mentioned, is all evidence-based programming focused. And so all the services in that for any of those programs will be an evidence-based program. We do understand that some agencies do provide a larger array of programs. And so we ask for 3 categories for 3 services, but you can go over that if needed, is how I would address that one. Allison, are you good with that?
Yep, I agree with that.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. And does the signal EDU symbolize evidence-based? I know, I think most of them I can tell, but there were a couple that I just wasn't sure if it was insinuating, if it was trying to say that it was the class, or, you know, they're just, the language is tricky on some of them. Does EDU symbolize that it's an evidence-based program, or does it vary?
Meg, I think so, but let me pull up the document
Okay,
right now. And
for your help, I appreciate it.
And I know that EOEA added some, I think they added services over the pandemic. I'm just going to share this with everybody. So these are the, this is the OAPS / NAPIS codes. So these here, I think it took me like, this is embarrassing to say in front of Melissa, but like 3 years to realize that over here in column E, it tells us that it's health promotion. And I don't know what Silver Sneakers is doing over here. It's B, but in column F, it tells us if it's would fall under D.
Okay.
So yeah. So we've got these, it looks like for them, it looks like they all have education at the beginning. If they fall under 3D, these ones, and then down here.
Okay, so we can use column F just as a safety check. If it's not indicated as D, then it does not apply to 3D. That perfect sense.
Yep.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, this is actually a great document, but once you figure out how to read it, there's also some D up here sprinkled in. So yeah, just, look over in that column F just to see where the service that you're proposing would fall. And you'll see that there are some C categories in here that does not apply. That's nutrition. You cannot include those services in this RFP. So
I also had a couple kind of nitpicky category questions. I don't know if this is the right time to ask that. Just a couple that I wasn't sure the difference between. Do you want me to go ahead, or would you rather okay.
Go ahead.
I was looking at line 30, protective payee, and then line 72, bill, so protective payee services. And then line 72 was bill rep payee protective, and then 50 was financial management, and kind of the differences between those are. Sorry if I'm getting way too specific in here. I was just already kind of thinking where we're going with this, and how do you want the line?
Yeah, no, Meg, these are great questions. This might be one of those questions where we have to look at some of the details and get back to you, get back to everyone on more kind of like the definitions.
Okay. If it's helpful, I know I'm not asking you to tell us what to apply for, but I'm thinking about the state bill payer volunteer program.
No, this is totally fine. We should be able to describe to you what we're looking for in these different services.
Okay.
So we will totally work on those for you.
Okay, and I had one more. Number 41, counseling versus mental health counseling, 86, which I'm imagining is, well, I'll let you answer, just the difference between those two.
I'm gonna have us defer to looking up the definitions and getting back to you unless Allison wants to chime in.
Okay.
And I don't think she does right now.
No, I mean, I will just say, I think that that sometimes, these services are created because there's an organization or, a AAA that's like, man, we really we're providing the service, or we want to provide the service, but it doesn't really fit into any of these categories. And then a service is created by the state, and then it kind of looks duplicative when, when another organization is looking at these. But obviously services, once they're created, they exist here on this list. So I think that it's not surprising considering how long these services have been around and new services being added, that sometimes they look really similar, and they are similar. It's just that some AAA was like, it doesn't really fit into this category. So we will definitely find out. But I would say, when you're really looking at these, certainly reach out if you would like assistance with kind of a definition from us. But I think, there's not a ton here. There's a title, and
Yeah.
I think that some of these services can include different looking delivery, right? And that's okay. And that's nice that we have that flexibility, because not every organization's bill or rep payee service necessarily looks like its neighbors. So we'll definitely get back to you, but as you're looking at these, don't stress too much about how exact is the service that we're delivering, and how perfectly does it fit into a category.
That's really helpful, Allison. I really appreciate that. I have one final question about these, and then I'll be done. I'm sorry. I think I know the answer, but I know I'm going to be asked, so I just want to make sure I have your up-to-date feedback. If there's a service we're offering that's not listed specifically for Title III-D, so like an evidence-based program that's not listed here, is the directive kind of to just leave that one off the application, or is there any kind of advocacy to get added to the list?
Good question. So the process that we go through when we get asked about evidence-based programs that aren't on this list, I reach out to our contact at the state, Ted, and ask him if, X program can be added. He checks the ACL website to see if they have it listed. If they don't, he says no. If they do, he will add it. So certainly, you can ask a question like that. You can email me and say like, hey, is this service on the ACL website?
Sure.
And that's fine. I can find that out.
Okay. Good to know. That's not the answer I assumed, so I'm glad that I asked. Thank you. And I'm done.
Thank you, Meg. There's another question that came in via the chat asking, do new program components have to be submitted as a separate program, or could they be incorporated into an existing previously funded program with a larger financial ask to support new services and components? Basically, yes, you can incorporate new components or services into a previously funded program, or you can propose a new program altogether, where it would be potentially two programs that you're asking for. Are there other questions?
I'm sorry, I have one more quick one. It's Cynthia. Going back to the NAPAS categories, is there a specific one now related to that digital technology or technology training, the digital literacy category, or do we just choose one?
I think that there is, it's a good question. I am going to answer this in a moment.
John thinks it might be number 75.
Computer training. You are right. Yes.
Thank you.
Computer training. I do think, I'm thinking about, I might complicate things. like a class versus one-on-one. I don't know that that makes a difference, but you know, if you're delivering, I don't know. 75. Let's go with 75. I might be getting too detailed in my thinking here.
Anything else from anyone? If not, you do know how to find all of us. Sydney might be the only person so far that doesn't have an email address, but you can track all of us down. Allison's information is, I think, all over the RFP and the applications, so feel free to reach out to her as our point person or any of us on the fiscal or AAA team.
Great. Will this recording be available? If you would like it to be available, I can, you know, we can certainly upload that to the site, our webpage, so you can refer to it. Yes. All right, great. Well, thank you all so much. As Melissa said, please reach out to me or any of us with questions. I am happy to take all of your questions, even if they don't necessarily apply directly to me and they're more of a fiscal question. I'll loop our fiscal team in, and we'll try to get back to you as quickly as possible. And again, we will publicize all of the questions and answers. I might like rephrase something or take out like the name of an agency or, you know, something like that. So if it's not exactly written the way that you've written it, that's okay. But the message will be the same, and we will respond as quickly as possible. And thank you all for being on here. This is a great group. We're excited to see lots of new faces on here and hope that this was informative and clear, and that these documents in this process will not be too confusing.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye, thanks for joining.